Talk and rock radio, where friends meet at the intersection of life, inspiration, and music. Here's your host, Rick Kern.
How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Rick, how you doing?
Fine, man. Dan will be on here in a minute, hopefully, and we'll get this thing going. You look good, man.
Feel good?
Yeah.
I feel good. What's up with you these days?
Well, just staying close to home like everybody else is supposed to be doing, just doing our thing and staying safe.
Yes, hopefully for not too much longer.
I know it's getting a little bit tedious, but we can't get too impatient for something we have no control over, right?
Yep, got to do what we got to do.
Yeah.
But as we get older, we go, hey, I only got so much time left here.
Yeah. I know, man.
How much time we got left? We got to take advantage of it.
I know. It's yeah, I know. It's kind of working against the clock here for sure.
Is Danny living in Colorado still?
Yeah, he's still in Colorado. So, Danny's getting ready to join us here.
All right.
Good. I don't see him yet, but I see where he's connecting.
Yeah. There he is.
There he is.
How you doing, Danny?
Great, Kurt. It's like looking in a mirror here.
Yeah.
Well, this is cool. We're finally doing this, and guys, I don't know about you, but I have butterflies going in my stomach right now because this is cool. Do you realize that it's almost been 48 years since we formed our group Tapestry?
Yeah, been a long time. In
Kurt's living room up in Westminster, and that was something else. I got to tell you, for the listening audience there, so you'll know exactly how this came about. I was coming out of a group, and we decided we didn't want to really go back to El Paso yet. Let's try to find another band out here to become part of. And so I had gone to my musicians union and had posted a picture and information about a singing drummer. And then so these guys reached out to me. Dan and Kurt had already had been putting a group together. So I went out there and auditioned with the guys. And I tell you what, it was now I don't hear you again, Danny. What's going on, man?
Oh, I'm not talking.
Oh, you're not talking. Okay. I saw you shaking your head, and I'm going, what's he doing?
My mind is blown, going back 48 years.
Yeah.
And realizing that, oh my God, that's 48 years ago.
It's a lifetime.
A lifetime ago. Yeah.
It really is. And what I was going to say is when I got to you all that day and brought my drums in and set up, I think what impressed me the most about that moment was that as soon as we started singing, we knew that this was it was a God's gift to our moment. I mean, the voices were so good together.
Yeah, it truly was a great blend. And you can I'll bet we could probably do that right now.
We probably could. You want to do Time in the Bottle?
Oh. I don't want to do the Four Freshmen again either.
I don't know why I picked that one, but I guess that was one of them that we sounded pretty darn good on. Interestingly enough, in the last few years, Sharon and I got to know Jim Croce's wife out in San Diego. And she had a restaurant out there. She closed it now. It was called Croce's. But when you walked in there, right past the bar where they had a little showroom in there, all of his gold records were up on the wall. It was really, really cool. Quite nice. But anyway, back to our event. So we had rehearsed, I guess, for a couple of weeks. And then we get this phone call from Doris Vance, our booking agent from the Howard King Agency. And she said, you guys
I forgot her name.
Yeah. You remember her? I
Yeah.
wish she was still around. I would love to talk to her again, but she calls us and she says, guys, you're ready to go. And we'd only, what, 2 weeks rehearsed. I think we probably had maybe a set and a half of music, but
If that.
if that. And so I remember getting the phone call that day, and she said, we have a situation at the Sahara and Lake Tahoe where we need to pull in a group, and you all would fit the bill. And so I said, if you think so, Doris, you know. And so I remember calling Sharon, and I told her, I said, sweetie, how can we get packed by 9 o'clock tonight? She says, why? And I said, well, because we've just been offered a 1 week gig at the Sahara and Lake Tahoe. And she goes, are you crazy? How can you do that? You know, and I said, well, our agent seems to think we can. And yeah, and the rest is history. And not only did we go play 1 week, but they held us over for 6 weeks. And it was quite an experience. What do you remember about that experience, Kurt?
Actually, I'd forgotten Doris Vance's name. I'd totally forgotten about her. Well, actually, you know, as we get older, our memories are not as good as but well, I remember I was actually just I had just gotten an apartment, and I had just put a deposit down on an apartment. I remember that. Wow. And I was just about to move in. You know, I was going to move in that week, and I'd paid like all this money up front, and then all that happened. I remember I trying to remember, we I don't remember a lot about it. I have to be honest with you. I don't remember. I remember rehearsing. I remember all that, and I remember, you know, driving up there to Lake Tahoe. I don't know if I had a van back then. I think I had to buy a van. I'm not sure. I think I had to buy a van to load put all the equipment in it. You know.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. Kurt, I think you had a truck. You had a pickup truck.
Did I?
That we loaded in, and I had to ride with you because I didn't have a car.
Ah, was that it? Okay.
I had to. Yeah, I had to.
I don't remember that. I don't remember that.
I remember. Well, I certainly remember humping that B3 all over the place. Was
that a blue truck?
I think so, with a topper on it.
I bought a blue truck. I thought that was after Tahoe, but I bought it in Salt Lake City. Remember, it was in Salt Lake City, and I bought a blue truck there. I don't remember, but whatever. We got there. I do remember one thing about when we got there, and that was that I got there and I didn't handle the altitude too well.
Oh, really?
I'd gotten there, and I remember if you recall, off on the side, we were in the Pine Cone Lounge.
That's right.
And off.
I'm gonna have to go on pause for a minute because we're in the middle of moving the house, and I got painters here. Hang on.
Okay.
Anyway, we were, if you recall, off on the side of the.
I'm in the middle of a Zoom meeting.
Perfect. You happy with everything?
Cool. Very, very, absolutely.
This is unrehearsed, ladies and gentlemen, so bear with us.
Well, let me tell you something else, Rick. I've got another person that's coming today, because this is all about, you know, like I said, we're in the middle of a move. And so they're coming here to inspect our water heater. So my apologies.
That's all right. We'll just tell stories about you when you're in the other room. Just turn your mic off so you won't hear us.
Oh, did I turn that off? I hear?
Yeah, I heard you a minute ago when you were talking to somebody.
Oh, I thought I had muted it. Okay,
no.
Sorry about that.
So back to Kurt.
Anyway, I remember off on the lounge, off on in the backstage area, or the offstage area, they had oxygen tank.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't think anything of it when we were setting up and everything, but I was huffing and puffing. I was having a hard time adjusting to the altitude up there. It was 5,000 feet or something. And I remember I got in between sets, I got kind of woozy.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that, but that was what I remember about that.
Yeah. I remember that the juniper, was it the pine cone or the juniper? I guess it was the pine cone.
And then the juniper was the bigger one.
That was a big one that they moved us
the big
into.
one. Right,
yeah.
right.
And I do remember the pine cone very well because Michael Jackson's drummer, Johnny Jackson, his cousin, came in, and remember on Enjoy Yourself that we did by the Jackson 5? He came and sat in on that song, and he broke my snare drum. I remember that. So I had to run out to the van and get my get another snare drum, head put on there. But yeah, that was crazy. I remember also vividly when they moved us into the big room, the big lounge room, we, in between shows, we would go into the dressing room and literally practice new material to pull into the show, because we were doing 3 or 4 shows a night, and we only had, I think, like I said earlier, about a show and a half at best. And I remember taking all the time we could to rehearse stuff, and we got it done. It was slow. I also am going to bring back a memory of Lake Tahoe that I don't know if you all remember, but do you recall us getting the flu?
Oh, it was bronchitis.
Yeah, well, it was a flu.
Bronchitis. We all three had it. We all had it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Do you remember it, Dan?
No.
You know?
Well, what I remember most vividly was when this is later on, when we were in Marco Island, and I got my scuba license.
Uh-huh.
And I had some sort of organism in my sinuses. And remember and a matter of fact, we had a couple weeks off, and I went clear out to Washington, Wenatchee, of all places. We can talk about that later. Wenatchee, and stayed in a hotel room healing. And I remember us playing the Lemon Tree.
Yeah.
And my clothes were literally hanging on me. And we have pictures of that, I know. But I don't remember the bronchitis thing, but I do remember vividly the how beautiful Lake Tahoe was, and it is still one of my favorite places in the world. I remember we stayed in a 2-bedroom apartment, and I had to sleep in the living room.
I remember that.
And I remember I was single.
Yeah, so and there were girls around.
I wasn't going to go that far, but yes.
Hey, man, it's the reality of being on the road with a band,
Yes.
So yeah.
It was a lot of fun. I mean, you talk about 6 weeks of a blast that went all too fast. And by the time we got done, we were pretty darn well rehearsed.
We really were.
What we knew it well.
What was so cool about that experience too, besides growing our sound and getting our material all together and everything, was the experience that we had with some of the big names that were there. The Jackson 5 were so nice. Did you go dancing with us some of those nights with the Jackson 5 when we went out, Danny? I don't think Kurt was there. Did you go with us?
I don't remember. I remember being in the hallway backstage.
Yeah.
And meeting the guys after we had seen the show, and how cool that was, of course. And I also remember seeing Elvis, the thin Elvis, and then I remember seeing the thick Elvis. Being able to go not backstage, but into the back of the auditorium where they just kind of let us in.
Yeah.
They would let us in because we were part of the show. We were on the marquee.
That's right. We were the biggies. I mean, we hit the big time.
Well, we were the lowest on the marquee, but still the marquee.
No, we weren't. We were in the middle.
Oh, okay.
We were in the middle. Yeah. But I got to tell you, I think one of the things that, remember when we did the Tommy and Dickie routine, the Smothers Brothers? And that was weird to be back there playing drums and singing da 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 da, trying to make it sound like their theme song, and you guys are out front doing just a great great routine. Kurt played a great Tommy Smothers.
Oh yeah, absolutely, Kurt. You sure did.
Oh God.
Go ahead, Kurt.
No, nothing to be said. Right? I got nothing to say about that.
Oh, hey, we were trying anything and everything we could, man. I tell you, to pull in and try to be a show band, you know, it's a whole different world being a show band. I mean, it's one thing to be in a band and you're out there playing music and all that.
Yeah.
That is so easy. But when you're trying to engage the audience and keep their attention and entertain, don't you all agree? It's a different world.
Brothers. Chance to see your face. Little by the meal, let it race. And run up Mary's place. So close your eyes and open your ears and imagine yourselves listening. That's right, Patty, Maxine, and Laverne, the Andrews Sisters.
Well, it sure is. It's a craft. And Jackie Vernon, Pete Barbutti, those guys had it down. Command performance, to be able to sing, do the medleys that they did, and do their routines that they had, was inspiring. And I think that's what helped us with the Tommy and Dickie show, you know, the Smothers Brothers show.
There's no
Because
doubt.
it came off well.
When we would finish doing a show, I know we would change out into our street clothes and run across the street to Harrah's and see the band you were talking about, Command Performance. And those guys were the consummate show band. No doubt about that. We couldn't get enough of them. I know I recorded them on a little cassette recorder and listened to their music so much, but I think I was so in awe of their the magnetism that they had between audience and the group. They drew you to them. You know, Gus, you know, he would make you cry. He would make you laugh. He was just a phenomenal entertainer. Don Clow, the consummate front man. By the way, I think Danny knows this, Kurt, but I stay in touch with Don Clow. We talk at least once a week. And he drives a truck. He still lives in Las Vegas, and he drives a truck all over, you know, the Northwest, back and forth from Vegas to there. But he's going to be doing an episode with me down the road. I wanted to do this one first so we could talk a little bit about that experience of meeting Command Performance. I think what was so incredible, and I knew we were finally on our way to doing some great things with this group when we finally were able to get invited to play with Command Performance at the Winnipeg Inn in Canada. And it was their agent, Arnie Prager, out of Chicago, that finally took us under his wing and started booking us.
Rick, you've got a memory like my goodness. I mean, how many terabytes of memory do you have in that brain of yours? I swear.
Well, I do surprise myself now and then, and then other days I can't remember what I had for lunch yesterday.
You must have written this stuff down. You had to have written this stuff down.
No,
my goodness, the names and places. Now, of course, I do remember Winnipeg because that was just that was probably my favorite showroom.
Wasn't it neat?
Yeah, great showroom.
It was big.
You could see everything, and it was like an amphitheater.
And you know what was cool about that? Well, it was kind of weird because we did our first show. I think, wasn't it like 4:30 or 5 in the afternoon is when we did our first one, I think. And then we, of course, we would alternate with the other groups, which I think we were there, 2 times? We did one with Command Performance. And then the next time we did, we were with Pete Barbutti.
And
the Dae-Han Sisters.
The Dae-Han Sisters.
Yeah. And by the way, we're in touch with Dae-Han Sisters also. We talked to Tarina. She lives in Las Vegas. And Wani, I haven't been able to find her yet. She's out in California somewhere. She spends about 6 months. She's back and forth between Korea with her mom, and then she's in LA still. But she eventually married Mike Stone. Wani did, the drummer. Mike Stone was the martial artist that did a lot of Bruce Lee movies. He's a 10th degree black belt. He's the guy. Well, you met him. You saw him, Danny, at the Rubens that night in West Covina. He was there with Wani. They came and sat right in front of the stage. I was telling this story to Jerry the other day. And this is the guy that Priscilla Presley left Elvis to go with him after they broke up. And he lives in the Philippines now. He's incredible. I'm going to be doing a show with him as well. He's already agreed to do it. So we'll be talking about his history with Priscilla and being in martial arts and all of that. So, but anyway, just crazy stuff.
While we're at it, Rick, congratulations on your podcast. Congratulations on your Talk and Rock radio show. You've put a lot of work into it. And I know it takes a little while to take off, but the more people you reach, the more you network, the better it's going to be. It can just grow and grow and grow. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you. That means a lot. I'm excited about it, but I think what a lot of this is for me, Dan, is I love my past. I love my background. And a lot of people say, well, you're living in the past. Why don't you live in the now and the future and all that? And I said, well, because I loved my past, most of it, not all of it, but most of it. I do.
We all have regrets. We all have a few.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's a song in there somewhere.
But then again,
I did it my way, right? which is one of Kurt's songs.
Yeah, right.
And he's still doing it as well.
I must say, let me interject a minute. I have the two of you to thank for my golf addiction.
Really?
Because I picked up the game of golf while we were on the road, and I didn't have anybody to do any kind of sports with, and because I loved racquetball and I loved tennis, and when we go to different towns and we're only there for a week or two, it's difficult to pick up a game with somebody as a partner. So I found golf, and it's been downhill ever since. After 48 years, that you're talking about that, after 48 years, one would think I'd be a lot better than I am now, but I'm not.
Hey, an 8 handicap's not too bad, my friend.
Oh, thank you.
That would be a 38 for me, probably, or more, but I also, since you brought up golf, I remember, weren't we playing in Chicago, or where was it where your van got broken into?
That was Chicago.
Yeah.
That was Chicago on the Jazz Street. I can't remember what the street was, doesn't matter. But that neighborhood, that block, I had to park off the street. And oddly enough, speaking of Winnipeg, my van had originally gotten broken into in Winnipeg.
Oh, wow. I forgot that.
My wing on my window of my van was not repaired yet. So that's how the robbers got into my van, took 3 Foot Lockers full of personal memorabilia, of which was worth nothing to anybody else but me.
Wow.
That was a heartbreaker.
Yeah, I remember it well. Hey, Kurt, I need to ask you a question. You, before Tapestry, back in, I think it was high school, wasn't Richard Carpenter one of your classmates?
Yeah, at the Long Beach State College.
Oh,
yeah,
State College.
Long Beach State. Yeah. He was kind of a nerdy kind of guy, very nerdy kind of, was not somebody that you would expect anything of in this world. But yeah, he was working with, he was in the music department. And I mean, I didn't know him as a friend or anything, but we, when I took a few music classes at Cal State Fullerton, because it was a pretty good jazz college, and he was in one of the classes. That was about it, though.
Yeah,
I didn't really know him personally.
Kurt did amazing medley arrangements for our band, and I was trying to remember your background in college. Did that prepare you for being an arranger? I mean, because you knocked those things out for us like crazy.
Well, it was not. I mean, I did take music in college, but it was mostly my private studies, my private jazz piano lessons that I took from a really remarkable pianist named Dick Powell, who actually moved to Colorado, to Colorado Springs, I think, actually, and he's probably passed away by now. But yeah, I owe a great deal of my ability to understand music or the basics of jazz theory from him, and that's where a lot of our arrangements came from.
I've been so many places in my life and time. I've sung a lot of songs, and I've made some bad rhyme. I've acted out my life on stages with 10,000 people watching. But we're alone now, and I'm singing this song for you. I know your image of me is what I hope to be, and I've treated you unkindly, but darling, can't you see? There's no one more important to me. Darling, can't you please see through me? We're alone now, and I'm singing this song for you. You taught me precious secrets of a truth withholding nothing. You came out in front, and I was hiding. Listen to the melody, for my love is in there hiding.
Yeah. Out of all of the medleys that you did, and I mean, there were so many of them that we did. I mean, there was the Bacharach, there was the Broadway, there was of course, the one that people loved the most was our oldies. You know, that was the one where we impersonated a lot of great vocal groups of the time. Out of all of the different medleys that you did, which was your favorite? I mean, we did an Al Jolson. I mean, we did a lot of different ones. What did you like?
Oh my gosh, I remember that. I remember the Jolson. That was a good one.
Yeah.
I don't even remember them all. You remember much more than I do.
You know how I remember them? Ta-da! Ta-da!
I still have 25 records. I still have 25 records.
And you're still trying to sell them, right? Yeah.
Oh no, not now. Matter of fact, I'm going to give them away. I've been working for the last 7 years at a golf course, and I've made a lot of friends up there in Greeley. And I truly am going to miss the folks up at Highland Hills Golf Course up in Greeley, Colorado. And so I'm going to give those records away and say, you can play them, throw darts at them, shoot them. I don't care what you do with them. I'm not carrying them anymore.
Oh, well, you could always hold on to them, man. And then maybe in the next few years, you could put them on Facebook or, you know, and really sell them, you know, or eBay or something.
I haven't sold them yet. What do you think is going to happen in another 40 years?
I don't know. You know, I got to tell you the one weird thing when I came back to El Paso, and it was probably a few years later, we were taking our daughter, well, it had to have been probably 12, 15 years later, whenever our daughter was a young teenager, she was going over to a friend's house to spend the night. And of course, we always had a practice of meeting the parents, make sure everything's cool before our daughter was going to stay there or whatever. And goes without saying, both kids. And so when we got over there, the guy that answered the door goes, I know you. And I said, I know you. His name was Rick Benitez. I was a drummer, really good guy. And he says, and I have your album. And I said, what?
Oh my.
He said, I have your Tapestry album. I'm going, how did you get that? I don't know anybody in El Paso except for just family or whatever that I maybe gave those to. And he says, I don't remember. I think I found it in a Goodwill store or something.
Bargain bin.
Our claim to fame. Yes.
Yeah, you know you've hit the big time when you hit the Goodwill store. Oh, Lord. But anyway.
How much did he pay for it?
I think he paid $1 or $2 for it. So, you know, hey, it could have been worse. Could have been like garage sale pricing.
$1 and sent us 33 cents, man.
Yeah, I know, man. I want my royalty. Oh, speaking of that album, I'm sure you all remember the situation where we just had like 3 days to punch through that album there at Queen City Studios.
Yeah. Oh, I wish we could have done it a lot better had we had more time.
Well,
but
no,
also,
no.
We had a guy who was a part-time school teacher who was the engineer.
Yeah, that didn't help us.
And that was that wasn't good.
And you remember what happened, right? Remember when we got the magic phone call and he says, guys, I've got some bad news. I had the Dolby kicked in when I was mastering this thing for you all, and he ruined the recording. And you remember that day when we finally finished all of our recording? I mean, we even had our wives and everybody had their hands on that board, the 24-channel board, I remember, and we were all, you know, bringing up the drums on this travel and fading out, fading in. We were all doing our thing, and we were pretty proud of our product. I mean, it sounded pretty darn good considering none of us were engineers. And then here we get this phone call, and he told us that what he had done, he's going to have to remix it. And we're going, oh no, we can't go back and do this, you know. So he said, I'll just do the best I can for you all. And I even tried taking this album. I gave it to an engineer here in El Paso that is very good, and he tried to use his software to isolate the tracks a little bit and bring up the volume on the instruments. Couldn't do it. He did enhance the vocals, but you know the vocals were already good, you know, so he couldn't really help us on it. But and you know, I got hold of QCA, Queen City Studios, probably 20-30 years ago, and I asked them, I said, I would love to buy the master that you all have. And they said, oh, sorry, Mr. Kern, we destroy those after 10 years. If nobody wants to buy more records, then we get rid of them, So I thought, well, wonderful, so that was that.
Well, it is. It's our history, and that's what it is. I have one of the albums framed, and I will always hang it when I get back to my studio here in Monument. That'll be up there on the wall as well. I have the original artwork.
Oh,
that
cool.
Sharon did.
Yeah.
I think Sharon did it, or we had somebody do it, but Sharon did the embroidery.
She did. She absolutely did. Those were incredible times.
If you want that original artwork, I'll be glad to sell it to you.
I'll give you $1 for it. No.
So
you can maybe find it at the Goodwill too. Who knows?
Yeah. Wait long enough, it might end up there. The one of the other standout memories that I have was in 1974 at the beginning of our touring, was at the Spokane World's Fair. And you remember across the street,
Jackie Vernon,
with Jackie Vernon, we were backing Jackie. I think that was the first time we played with him, wasn't it?
Well, it was not. Seattle was the World's Fair.
Was Seattle? No, it was Spokane, 1974. Google it. 1974.
Spokane was way too small for a World's Fair.
Google it.
Okay.
I got pictures of it. I got an aerial view of it. Spokane World's Fair.
Well, I'm sure you have.
No,
I trust you.
Yeah, it was 1974, and we were backing Jackie.
Okay.
And I remember the first night we were there, we all had vans by then. We had our vans parked out on the street right by the club. And where they put us was up above the club in this big, it was almost like I know it had a community bathroom down the hall.
Hotel suite. Yeah. I remember this.
Oh yeah, right. Luxury hotel suite. Our girls, our wives, Kurt's wife, and Sharon, my wife, sat out on the fire escape that night, watching our vans down below to make sure they weren't going to get broken into while we were sleeping. Because the next day we had a sound check to do around 12 o'clock or whatever it was. So, and they were still waiting to get the previous band out of the suite that they were staying in, that this guy had for all the entertainers. So anyway, we go from, it was a 180 the next day. We go from that experience to this really like penthouse suite that they had for us. I don't know if you remember that. It was a gorgeous place with food and booze and everything there, for us. And then Jackie comes to town, and he's a diabetic. So he had to take over our suite. So what happens to us now? We get moved over to the owner of the club's house. You remember that? He had like Panteras out in the front of his driveway there, and he owns something like 122 clubs across the country, so need I say anything else about that? We know, what he was.
Well, I do remember Jackie. I remember Jackie. I think I remember him coming into the apartment that we had taken possession of.
Yeah.
And said, you guys got to pack up and get out.
Yeah. Yeah, because he was on a special diet and he had to be able to cook, certain things for himself. But yeah, so we thought, well, okay, where are we going to go next? So this guy ends up putting us in his house, and wow, what a cool place that was. We got to, he had a swimming pool and everything, and I remember he told the girls, go out and buy anything you want. Here's a credit card, get whatever you need, and just make yourselves at home. So he was very cordial. He was really super neat. Really treated us right. That was a nice room. I enjoyed playing that. It was a good place.
I don't remember a stitch of it.
No, you're still in Seattle.
Hey. Is that what? Well, no, I'm serious. But I remember Spokane very well. I also remember Wenatchee. I remember her really well. But Spokane, what we were playing steakhouses, weren't we at that time?
we did the Black Angus, in
Black
Yakima,
Angus, yes.
Black Angus and Yakima and Wenatchee.
Oyster House. It was the Oyster House.
Oyster House, yeah.
But we also worked with Jackie Vernon in Monterey.
Yes, we did.
Yes.
At the Merv Griffin's club called the Shutters.
Right.
And then we also played with Jackie at the Pat Boone's Ocean Shores Inn in Ocean Shores,
yes,
Washington,
Oregon. Yeah, right on the water there. That was a neat room too. That was a big room. Pretty cool.
We sure did put a lot of miles on our bodies and our cars, didn't we?
We really
and our
did.
Voices.
I have to ask you guys a question. Do you remember? This is a memory I have, not one of my favorite ones, but do you remember Medicine Hat, Alberta?
Oh gosh, yes. Oh yes.
Do you remember the place we were gonna had to stay? It was absolutely awful. It was Medicine Hat, Alberta. I remember that, but I just remember that was an awful place they were going to put us to stay.
I don't specifically remember Medicine Hat. I remember the town. I don't remember the club very well. I remember so many of them up there. I remember the Penticton Inn in Penticton, Manitoba. I remember the Winnipeg Inn, obviously in Winnipeg. I remember Lloydminster. I remember, oh gosh.
The Regina.
Did we do Calgary?
The Regina.
Regina, yes. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Regina. Yeah, Regina. Yeah, Regina, Saskatchewan.
That's right.
Yeah.
And do you remember Glasgow, Montana?
Oh gosh, yes, the Air Force Base.
Yeah. Well, it was 90
coldest
degrees.
night I ever. Coldest night I ever spent.
That's right.
I remember we had to put oil heaters in our cars, and there were receptacles outside the hotel that we were staying in that you had to plug in your heater so you wouldn't seize up your block.
That's right.
We had never heard of that before. I mean, being from California and Texas, maybe you had, Dan, back in Ohio, but we didn't even know what an oil heater was, and they said, no, you got to get these.
Never heard of it before until we started getting into that cold climate. But yeah, Kurt, I remember 50 below wind chill.
And I remember driving through the pass going to Glasgow because we were trying to stay in touch with the cops, whatever, the sheriff's department, to find out what the road conditions were. And they said, oh, these roads are impassable. They're really bad. You need to have chains and all that if you're traveling that way. And we said, well, no, we don't have chains. I had good Michelin all-weather tires, but I didn't have any chains, any chains to put on there. So I remember going through, and I remember peeking out at a high pass we were going through. And when we got to the top of it, they had one of those heated bathrooms, and I remember going in there and warming up. Man, it felt so good. But that was a tough job getting to that next gig. Getting through that snow. And of course, there was always the famous one, the Buffalo Blizzard, Erie, Pennsylvania. We had just finished the Jackson Hilton in Jackson, Mississippi, and we had to drive all the way up on those big turnpikes. And I remember those turnpikes, as you recall, had like 6 lanes up and 6 lanes back. And that night driving, there was 1 lane up and 1 lane back. And I remember seeing 18-wheelers jackknife all over, hitting these snow banks and stuff. And we just kept trucking, plowed right through it.
I have an Erie, Pennsylvania story.
Okay.
The Erie, Pennsylvania story is, of course, it was 14 feet of snow.
Right.
In Erie, Pennsylvania, as you recall.
Right.
And I got there, I think, a little bit earlier than you guys. And as you recall, it was kind of a big auditorium, and it kind of was a half circle stage.
Right.
And they had a grand piano on the stage. And I walked in, got in there early, day before you guys did. And there was a grand piano on the stage, and I went and sat down at the piano, introduced myself to the owner. He said, does everything look okay? I said, everything's great. I said, I think you might want to tune the piano. And this is not a joke. This is how he responded to me with that. He says, what do you mean tune it? I just had it painted last week.
Just had it painted last week.
That's
Oh
a
my
true
gosh.
story. That's a true story.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
I remember, getting done with a gig on a Saturday night, packing up, traveling, God knows how many miles we had to go to the next gig by Monday.
Yeah.
And not, being tired as all get out. And setting up, playing a gig. It just, there were times that it was just like, what? You want us to go where?
I know. I I also remember a story, Kurt, about our final night. You recall, I'm going to ask you if you recall this one, but you went in to get we were tearing down, and you went in to get our pay. And when you went into the office, because when you came out, you said, guys, sit down. I got to tell you this story. You went in there and they had our money sitting on the table, and there was a pistol sitting there next to it. You remember this story?
Not.
And then, and they said to you, of course, we're probably what you think we are. And I'm not going to go into details about that. Okay. But I think everybody will figure that one out. And so about that time, they said, we're going to show you what we're all about. And they turned the light out in the room. It went completely black for about 10 or so seconds. And then they turned it back on and said, we're just kidding you, man. Not a problem, And so when you came back to the dressing room, you said, guys, you're not going to believe what they just did with me. And I remember that I've told that story so many times.
Was that in Warren, Ohio?
It might have been Warren. It wasn't Erie.
The living room. You remember
the living room? That's where it was. The living room.
And the guy's name was Dominic Fazzanelli.
That's him.
Everybody called him Fuzzy.
Fuzzy.
Right.
Well, see, there was Joseph Masiello at Masiello's in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're right. It was Fazzanelli. And what's interesting about this story is that, no, I'm going to rethink this. I'm not going to talk about that. I'll talk to you all about it privately. And then we may do this on another episode and talk about it. But I need to get I want to get a clarification on this from you all first, if I should talk about it. But we'll just say that there's more to the story.
I'm good with Rick, I'm good with anything. The fact that I don't have a wanted poster at the post office, I'm golden.
Well,
I'm saying I should rephrase that. I don't have a wanted poster yet.
I'll just say this: everywhere that we worked, those guys always took good care of us. The rooms were great. I remember Masiello's in Cleveland, great place. And Dan, you remember you and I got to know Bob and Kitty Gaines, remember, from the Cleveland
in Cleveland, yeah.
Cleveland Browns. And
took us to a Browns game.
Took us to the Browns game.
I'll never forget that. Sitting there having breakfast with the players
in the captain's club.
One of those big guys come up and takes my hand, and my hand just disappeared.
I know. And Bob, Bob Gaines, he was one of the retired players for the Browns. He had been injured, and it was a sore spot because, of course, my team was the Dallas Cowboys. And that was a sore spot with him because that's who took him out professionally the rest of his life. He had gotten multiple fractures from an injury and had to retire from it. But I remember meeting Bob and Kitty. They were so kind to us, and they came in and saw our group numerous times, had us over to their house, took us to that game. It was a prize moment, really a great moment. One of my special moments of being on the road.
I do have to step back for a second when you said we were received quite well everywhere, except for Missoula, Montana.
Let me think about Missoula.
We played Missoula, and we got fired.
Let me see.
We weren't rock and roll enough.
That's right.
I remember that in Calgary, Canada, at the Majestic Inn.
Well, if it happened there too, that's two of them.
And they didn't fire us.
Missoula, because we had the bombs. We had the bomb scare.
Oh, that's
in
right,
Missoula.
Missoula. That's right. That's where the snow
We had the bomb
and then
scare.
we had the bomb scare, right? And we were doing
Yeah.
shows,
I
and they
remember
were.
being outside, freezing our tails off.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that. Missoula, Montana. It's a college town, and they wanted rock and roll. They wanted a rock band. And we weren't. We could play, some kind of Wonderful by Grand Funk a few times, and Proud Mary and and How Sweet It Is, and that's about it. And then the rest of it was Al Jolson or whatever. But
that was not a good fit.
Not a good fit.
Al Jolson don't rock and roll.
But the Majestic Inn in Calgary, Canada, that was the other one that was probably the worst one, even over in Missoula. I had that night, it was so bad because the crowd, the bar, obviously they wanted to hear rock and roll. They wanted a band to play music to dance to, and we were not a dance band. So the next day I remember calling the agent and I said, "You've got to get us out of here." I think that was Ida Banks from the Tommy Banks show. Remember, Tommy Banks was kind of the Johnny Carson of Canada, and Ida, his wife, was our agent while we were in Canada. And I called her and I said, "Ida, you got to get us out of this room. This is not going to work." And I think we ended up spending, out of the 2 weeks, I think we still ended up spending 1 week there maybe or whatever, but it was the worst. I remember that,
Yeah.
we did our best, but
Yeah. I don't think we had overall as much time as we spent on the road. What, 3 years? I can't remember how
3 or
many
4
years
years.
it was.
Yeah.
3 or 4 years. It was a great time. Had a great time. All the traveling, all the people, all the fun places we went. I remember going into just about every town we went into, except for my hometown, Springfield, Ohio.
That was fun.
Every town we'd go into, I'd go get lost. I didn't care. I'd just go get lost on my day off, and just to go look around and see stuff.
Hold that thought for a minute about getting lost, because I'm going to take us to Ocean City, Maryland in a minute. But first, I want to talk. I want to talk about Marco Island, Florida, which was a really cool place. I know Danny had this vision of getting a full body massage by some gorgeous blonde on the rooftop of the Marco Island Hotel where we were playing. And I think it ended up being Attila the Hun. And I remember you were so sore after that massage, man. You had really been worked over. Do you remember that?
No, it's probably one of those things I probably immediately forgot.
Yeah. Well, I think that was the first time we had met Arnie Prager, our agent from Chicago. He came down and saw us, and we were pretty excited about that. We had, it was going to be our first opportunity to work with him. Well, he had booked us down there, and by the way, Command Performance played that same room, there at the Marco Island Hotel that later became a Marriott. But that was a great place. So moving back to,
this is back when Marco Island was really small back then.
Oh yeah.
We wouldn't recognize it now. I'm sure I think we used to drive over those bridges that were pontoon bridges to get to the island.
It's changed a lot
now. It's just a paved paradise. Yeah.
Sharon and I went back there years after we got back to El Paso and went on a vacation there because I remembered it so much. It was just a beautiful place. We loved it. And I'm trying to remember. Oh, I was going to tell you, because lately I was talking to Kurt about Tower of Power. Lee Thornburg, horn player for Tower of Power. He's now traveling with Joe Bonamassa. He's in the process of leaving Burbank, California, to relocate to Marco Island area. Actually, it's Naples where he's moving, which is like 15 miles from there. But
right.
So Ocean City, Maryland, we were playing the Sheraton Fontainebleau there, and that was at a time when they had the second highest recorded wind velocity and cold temperature due to a nor'easter that happened. This is probably around 76, 77. I'm not sure when that was, but But do you remember that night, Kurt? How bad that was? That wind blowing?
Yep, I do. I remember it.
Yeah.
Very, very cold. It was right on the water too.
Right on the ocean. And it was, I remember we were up in our room that night, and, you know, the windows didn't open, but the wind was still blowing so hard that it was still pushing the curtain, you know, away from the glass. So air was finding a way to get in that room. And I remember we got so cold because the heat was in the hotel had gone, and we ended up putting on our jogging suits to stay warm, and just, you know, got in bed and huddled up. You know, I remember watching the water sitting on our nightstand shaking from the hotel, from the movement of the hotel. I think it was 110 miles per hour, something like that outside. It was hurricane velocity.
Oh, I remember it blew out a bunch of windows. I remember it blew out a bunch of windows.
Yeah.
We didn't even know it. Nobody came and rescued us or anything to get to shelter. And we should have been able to get down to the basement, but we just said, well, shelter in place. I mean,
yeah.
What did we know?
Well, we found out the next day that a lot of the people staying at the hotel went downstairs, and they were staying in the, you know, I don't know where it was, a cafe or something down there, where the maybe restaurant or whatever,
meeting hall or
something, just staying safe. And meanwhile, the band's upstairs, you know, trying to get some rest. It was crazy. Well, and I also remember, so you were talking
that brings
about
back
I remember
brings back a memory about that time frame, that we had a very failed experiment where we thought we were going to be a horn band too. And I bought a valve trombone, and I think you guys got trumpets.
That's right.
And we tried to do some Chicago tune, and it failed miserably. It was
Terrible.
the worst experience.
Terrible.
Here I am trying to play, I think I was trying to play bass. You were trying to play a horn and drums, and Kurt, you're trying to play horn and keys. I mean, it just, that was bad.
Yeah.
We were doing the best we could just to play. We were just trying to do the best we could playing our original instruments, man, you know, and then all of a sudden we're going to become the next Tower of Power. I don't think so, you know. So yeah, you're right. That was a failed
I
experiment.
remember we rehearsed, but I don't ever remember playing live. I don't remember doing that. I think we all agreed this isn't going to work.
We should have used that one in Missoula, Montana. With the horn, they probably would have liked it there, you know. Who knows? But yeah.
Sorry to interrupt that one. That's it.
No, that's all right. So I was going to go to the memory of when you were talking about how you would just go get lost on your day off or whatever, you know, when we were going to different places. Well, I remember you had gone into, I don't know, probably up to Lewes, Delaware, or somewhere New Jersey, whatever, while we were there in Maryland. Of course, the states are so close, all right there, so you can, you know, get to everywhere real quick. And I remember you had gone somewhere that weekend, that Saturday night you had left.
Rhode Island.
Was it where was it?
I went to Rhode Island. Well,
Okay.
actually, New Jersey. I went to New Jersey.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I take that back. I went to New Jersey to visit a piano player, fellow musician that I was with the Navy.
Ah, okay. Well, anyway, while you were gone, Sharon and I, on our night off on Sunday for dinner, we had lobster in the restaurant there at the hotel, and I remember taking her whole lobster, what was left of it, and I got the key to your room from the front desk and went and took the lobster and put it in your toilet and put the top down. So when you came back, you're going to open this thing up and hopefully, you know, be shocked by it. But I think the smell of it was probably more devastating to you than seeing the actual lobster looking up at you. So, but I remember the response. He immediately, when he got there, Kurt, he gets on the phone and he calls me and he says, I'm not going to use the expletives that he used, but he said, get over here and get this damn thing out of my toilet. So he knew exactly what had happened. But Yeah, you got to do something to entertain yourselves every once in a while, just
That was a good one.
yeah, that was one of the better ones, I think, but I think the other one that I really enjoyed the most that involved my wife was the owner of the club, or the manager of the club. He did what you call double talking. And if you've ever heard somebody do this before, it's really very confusing. I mean, they speak words and like they're carrying on a dialogue, but they're making no sense. And so this guy had shared his talent with me that night, and and he says, why don't we play a trick on your wife? So we're sitting at dinner having our nice lobster and everything, and he comes over, and we'd already prearranged this. And so he comes over and he introduces himself to Sharon, and I said, oh yeah, honey, this is our manager and everything. And so he starts doing this double talking with her, and she thought maybe she was just not hearing him right or something. She kept turning her head, and so he would finally, after saying a couple of words, a couple of sentences, he would stop and say, what do you think about that? And he said that to Sharon, and she goes, I mean, he had her going, and I'm just trying to keep myself composed, and I'm starting to laugh my butt off, and she's kicking me under the table. She said, she's thinking, you can't, this is your boss, you can't, act like that. So anyway, finally we just broke down and told Sharon that this was all a setup. We were doing this, but that was a fun moment. That was crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. But well, what else do we want to talk about? Any other good stories? Or
Oh, hey, well, how about what's going on with you now? How about you, Kurt? What are you doing these days?
Sort of semi-retired. I'm just when I got off the road with you guys, as you recall, what was happening was disco. Disco was starting to hit, and of course it ruined music. It ruined any live music. And so there was very little live music going on. So I was working a little bit then, and in just doing piano bars and stuff, and did a little bit with a band and stuff. But I got involved in I got an insurance license to sell life insurance, and I started hating that, and I kind of morphed that into financial planning and stuff like that. I've been doing that most of my life, and real estate, getting involved in investing in real estate, second trust deeds and things like that. And so now I'm just kind of working maybe 20 hours a week, just fiddling around here and there, making some money. And I've got a jazz trio that hasn't worked since COVID, but that was what I've really always wanted to do, was play jazz. As you know, I've been doing, commercial music, a lot of my career, but in music, but pretty much now it's just, I fortunately can't make a living playing jazz. It just is not it's not exactly the genre of choice these days. So, and it hasn't been for a long time, but I do that here and there, and just have income from other little financial things that I'm doing, and traveling and trying to enjoy life to the best of my ability before I leave this place. So that's
Are you doing any singing at all with your jazz stuff, or is it just instrumental, Kurt?
Yeah, we do singing stuff, doing Sinatra kind of stuff, because that's kind of my thing. I did a lot of the Great American Songbook stuff, piano, bass, drums, and then I do some singing, and I have a drummer that that also sings a little bit. And cool. But for the most part, doing that, record date here and there, but mostly just playing jazz. That's just what I love to do, Improvisation. I mean, that's just what I think, And the thing about jazz is,
I have gotten totally into improvisation, loving the heck out of it. I mean, absolutely loving jam, progressive jamming. a group that I've been following for about the last 12 years or so, out of Chicago, called Humphreys McGee.
Oh,
A
yes.
very prog rock band that I have seen I've seen probably 15 times. And it never gets old because they always go into this improvisation. It's always different. And they'll be doing something and then change gears and go 180 degrees the other way. And I'm going, wow.
Yeah.
And so with the band, I ended up playing music with my brother, and then we met this brother team from Alabama, actually Texas, and they were brothers, and a drummer and a bass player, and then my brother sings and plays guitar, and I sing and play guitar. We were called the Brothers, and so much of we did any number of gigs in Colorado Springs before I moved to Greeley. But we had a great time. But when we would always get to this place, we would always take a moment, even sometimes during a show, and we would go outside the box. And I absolutely gets my yayas. So that's where I completely concur with you, Kurt. That is just something, that creative boundary, that is no boundary. As long as you come home, you gotta come home.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I was going to ask you, Danny, did you ever meet or get to know Richie Furay up there where you were living? He was from the Buffalo,
No,
Springfield.
but I know he's right. No, but I do have a story to tell you that later on, after Tapestry and the second generation of Tapestry, we were the band called Midnight Riders, and we were managed at one point in time by the road manager of the Eagles. We had met him and hooked up with him, and he became our manager. And we went up to Vail to play. And lo and behold, I'm finding myself staying at, it was Aspen. Find myself staying at Glenn Fry's condo in town.
Wow. How cool
and
is
the
that?
other band members were at Glenn Fry's house, which was right behind Jimmy Buffett's house.
Oh,
So
how cool.
although we didn't meet any of those guys, we stayed in their houses, we fished in their ponds, and we had a great time.
Where was that?
I
Where
was
was it?
awakened by a phone. This was up in Aspen. I don't know the name of the club. It was some cellar
Yeah.
up in Aspen. But it was a small little place, but hey, gig's a gig. And I remember waking up one morning to a phone call, and I say, hello. He says, who are you? I said, my name's Danny Evans. He says, what are you doing in my house? I'm sorry, who are you? I said, I'm Glenn Fry. Oh, Mr. Fry.
You've got a nice house.
Sorry. We've got, this is a nice condo. I love your projection TV. It's awesome. And I said, Craig Hollingsworth had made these arrangements. I'm so sorry, Mr. Fry. He said, oh God, yeah, I forgot all about that. It's all good. He was recovering in the hospital from deviated septum, all that cocaine, the deviated septum, and he had operation. And, but what a great story I'll be able to tell. And then of course, just recently he died, and what a shocker for me, having had that close a contact with a Glenn Fry.
Well, and it breaks my heart too, because they had been in El Paso playing the year before, and I so regret not going to see that concert. I mean, all my friends were there, and I don't know for what reason I think I probably had something else going on that night at the studio or something. There was a conflict, so I didn't get to go, but it was, always wanted to hear that group. Wished I had wish should have, would have, but yeah. Anyway.
But hey, we're not dead yet, so we got time to go see stuff and do stuff. I, like you, Kurt, I love to travel. Kate and I, she's up in Greeley right now while I'm down here tending to the house. We love to go to national parks. That's one of the most favorite things that we do. we took when she was working for this company, she got a 5-week sabbatical. And I'm semi-retired now as well. We took 3 weeks and my van, my conversion van, and we went all over the southwestern United States and all the national parks we could fit in. And I think it was national parks and monuments, something like 20 of them in that time frame. It was wonderful. I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
That's cool. Really, really nice. Yeah, we love cruising. We like to do cruises, and we did do Roatan. We've done about 4 different ones, but we really love that experience because you don't have to do anything. You just go and eat and see great shows, and hang and see some nice country and culture and all of that stuff. But that kind of came to a standstill, and and of course a lot of things have happened with the ships.
Yeah.
They're sometimes you don't even know if it's safe to be on a ship anymore because of all of these different viruses and things that are breaking out on them. So so you never know. But
yeah, that's the one thing about the golf course. COVID did not hurt the golf business at all. The golf business, we were busier last year than ever before, record numbers, because people could go outside and they could go to the golf course and be outside and have an activity. I mean, they couldn't go to the movies. They couldn't go do anything, concerts. They couldn't do anything inside. So if you could go do things outside, it was a good deal.
Yeah.
So, and this year's starting out the same way, of course, because we're still, sorry, creaky creak. We're still all just hunkered down as much as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
but I'll tell you what, I can't wait to go get a good steak somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I hear that. Me too. I was going to ask you, Kurt, when things calm down with the COVID and everything, are you going to get back into the gigging again, you think, much, or what do you think is going to happen?
I don't. Absolutely. Of course I will. I mean, it's just like, I've played piano now for 50 years of my life, and I don't miss a day of practice. I don't miss a day of writing and arranging and doing something, trying to learn something new about jazz theory and harmonics. And I really have, I worked at this place in Laguna Beach called The Ranch, and I worked there for a couple of years doing a jazz gig there, because the beach areas are a little more friendly to jazz, because the people are a little little hipper,
Right.
And so I would definitely get back into doing that. Absolutely.
Good.
I've got some great players that I've worked with that look forward to getting back to doing that again.
There's a studio here in El Paso called Star City Studios. They're owned by one of the guitar players from a band that I was managing called PT and the Cruisers. And they've got 3 different studios in their building. They got A, B, C. The C is the big room that will seat about 125 people. It's a good sized room, and they can do live performances and then, record it. The whole thing. It's a first class facility. Anyway, the band that I was managing, PT and the Cruisers, they do perform there, not regularly. They'll do maybe a show every 2 or 3 months, but not with PT. It's strictly the Cruiser band. PT was Patty Tiscareño. She was the lead singer. It was her band, but the guys have maintained to stay together. And they will back up other people that are either coming through town or need a backup group, or other local musicians that they bring in, and they'll play with them and everything. It's become a very nice showcase room, or showroom, if you will, for people that just want to come and go see a great show. And I booked 2 or 3 acts in there. There's a guy, I don't know if you've heard of him, Danny, by the name of Richard Smith. He's from England. This guy is a 1 or 2 time national flat picking champion. This guy is a phenom. If you've never heard of him, I'll send you some links to him. He'll be doing a show with me. He now lives in Nashville. His wife's a cellist, and I've booked him in El Paso 2 or 3 times. Really a great musician, plays phenomenally. At age 11, he was playing with Chet Atkins on national TV. That's how good he is. Now he's probably, pressing, 50, 40, late 40s, early 50s. And the guy is just a great player. But anyway, I look forward to when things calm down with this COVID to start doing shows, going to shows over there again. I do miss seeing live music. It's interesting that all 3 of us have maintained to keep music in our lives in one form or another. I don't play much anymore. I don't do the last Border Legends production that I put together, which started in 2009, ended in 2016. I did 8 of them, and where we brought bands from El Paso back into our city again. A lot of them came from all over the country to reform and play once again, and we had some pretty good success with it. It was good times. Something that, once again, living in my past, but trying to keep the memories alive, and that's what it's all about. That's my love for my music.
Good. Well, the one thing that I can say that has been fantastic in being able to connect with people once is Facebook, plain and simple. I was able to connect with guys that I had played with over the years through Facebook, and except for a few exceptions, they're all still alive, playing music or loving music, doing something with music. Danny Miller is out in California, plays and runs the music program or something like that at some hotel complex.
He's at Harrah's in San Diego. He's the entertainment director there and runs the sound in front of the house. Yeah. Yeah.
Jerry's still playing. I had what they call Dupuytren's contracture, and I had surgery not this past March, but a year ago March. And so I'm finally starting to get back into wanting to play a little, but there for a long time, I couldn't press down. I couldn't form the chords that I needed. That finger right there is pretty important for guitar. And so my studio, when I set up my studio again here, I hope to get back into doing some creation. I don't even know if I'm interested in playing out anymore.
Yeah.
Pretty much done with it. It's, but who knows? Never say never.
What I miss more than anything is not so much the playing as the singing. I really miss doing good harmony, that we were so good at. I think out of all my experiences of being on the road for those 5 or 6 years that we left El Paso, I think playing with this band here, Tapestry, was one of my most rewarding times of my career. Was being associated with you guys. We had our act together. We did it right. We had good agents. We had great rooms, except for 2 or 3. But over a 4-year period, that's not too shabby. When you think about it. But
no, it was fun. We definitely could sing well together. Some of those recordings are phenomenal. Yeah.
Guys, I can't tell you how much this has meant to me. I've thought about this many times. Never knew I was going to do a show with it, but just the fact that we all 3 got together and we're sharing our stories, our past, our great memories, and I love you guys.
I love you too, Rick.
We sure appreciate
Kurt, it's so good. So good to see you, Kurt.
Good to see you too, Danny. You're looking good.
I mean, I seriously think we look like brothers.
There you go. Okay. We got the beard. You got the whole thing going on, right?
Take care. Namaste. Peace be with you, brothers.
You guys take care.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe, and let's stay in touch, okay?
All right.
Talk to you soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, and let us know what you think. To catch all the latest from me, please go to Talkin' Rock Radio, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.